So
And again, to
it's
put that into
tricky, and
perspective, we
I'd
were all
love to say
asleep
I
when
had
it
an answer
happened.
to it, but
Yeah.
there's in the future we will obviously be more careful and try really hard to get the dates correct with this sort of thing. Um, and we'll double check them now that we've seen how easy it is to make that error that we hadn't anticipated. We will check them even more carefully. The problem is you can't test if it's going to go off at the right time, because the only way you can test if it's going to go off at the right time is by waiting till the right time.
Yeah. And to make it like
Uh,
extremely clear, like there's rumors going around that people were they had insider information, knew it was coming. That wasn't the case at all. There was no way.
Well, yeah, not unless they have access to our code base and we're paying more attention than I was. Yeah.
I mean, again, to reiterate, I was up, I think, until about 1:45 a.m. my time, because I know that we'd done some server pushes and some changes, and I was checking everything, making sure it was all smooth, getting myself quite excited about the future that was coming and the launch of the city, and decided to go to sleep because it was late and I was going to mess up the next day if I didn't get to sleep. So I think I went to sleep at about 5 minutes to 2, and from what I understand, this happened at 2 o'clock. So apart from obviously waking up with that horrible pit in your stomach feeling when we realized early in the morning that this has happened, there was nothing we could do about it. It was already over. It had happened. I think the majority of the penthouses had already been purchased within the first 2 hours. And it was over. The excitement that I'd even been looking forward to. I think somebody put it very well on Facebook, where they said that the disappointment they experienced was a little bit like waking up at Christmas and finding that somebody had stolen all the presents. And I get that. That's a horrible, horrible feeling, and not one we want to give people, not one we want to feel ourselves. And I felt that. I mean, I felt that, and I felt embarrassment and humiliation. So again, huge apologies. I am going to lighten the load a little bit and talk about a bug that we did on StarChart, another one of my applications that was relatively similar, also quite embarrassing and horrific. Launched the application StarChart, which is a night sky astronomy stargazing application. Uses your phone to look at the night sky and show you the stars. And we launched that, and we were using it ourselves. We'd been using it for months, and we had tested it a lot, and it was awesome. We could hold the phone up to the night sky, we could see the stars, they lined up with the phone, and everything was pointing in the right direction. And we got reports from people that were saying it wasn't working. And we went around buying the phones that they had to test whether it was a problem with the phone, and working out about a month in after this not working, getting 1-star reviews at the beginning of it from people around the globe. We realized that it wasn't working for everybody apart from us, because we were on GMT, and therefore at the at 00, or about as close to 00 as you could be. But we had a -1 multiplier, so that every coordinate on the map that was clockwise was actually showing up as anti-clockwise, and every coordinate in the other direction was pointing the other direction. So people in America felt like they were in Russia, people in Russia felt like they were in America, so it didn't work.
That's
the
not good.
stories of this sort of
And people in London felt like they were in London.
Oh,
yeah,
that's worse.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, we were pretty much at Greenwich, and therefore we could not tell the difference. And we just didn't understand what was going on. And when we finally triple and quadruple and I don't know how many uptools checked the code, we realized there was a -1 in there, and it was extremely embarrassing yet again. So yeah, it does happen. We now know that we've got this problem, and we are going to try and make sure it doesn't happen again. However, we are in pre-beta, we are an agile team, and even if we weren't, mistakes of this nature happen. So huge apologies from myself, from the team, and especially from Chris, to everybody out there. We realized this was a bad one, and yeah, we apologize profusely.
So if anyone, or if you're directly in this channel that you're currently in, on the little icon at the west, see that you want a question
Nikki just dropped out.
Oh no,
I
I'm
think
not.
he's
I'm
back.
invisible. I'm invisible. I clicked the wrong button. Yeah, let us know your questions. Feel free to ask away. I think have us.
Yeah. Today, I think we all have meetings and other things happening just afterwards. So we are going to have to keep this one tight. Apologies. But yeah, give us a shout. We're reading the AMA chat. And people are saying things like the little hand is blacked out. So Mark can't click it. I don't know why. So,
And if it's blacked out for you,
there we go. People are doing it. I had to click a button that said allow requests from everyone. Now they're doing it. So I'm going to let Eugene in, if that's cool. I'm going to invite Eugene to speak. Hi, Eugene. Welcome.
Good morning, guys. First of all, I want to thank you guys for being transparent, right? Corporations and companies really don't need to be this transparent with their community, and you guys are, so we thank you for that. Second is, I've been in IT all my life. I'm a director of IT at Kenneth Cole, and throughout my career, we've done major implementations and major upgrades, and things happen that you go back and you fix them as soon as you can. So we understand the process of implementations. Other companies, other game companies, Microsoft, they just push out updates and you just do the update when you get it. So we thank you for giving us the heads up that a new city was going to drop so that we could be prepared for it. So don't be so hard on yourself, guys. I mean, we're still in a beta stage and we're going to learn from our mistakes. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Eugene.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. However, it was a big mistake and we aren't going to hide from it. We appreciate that this was not one that we wanted to happen, and we are going to face it full on. But yes, you're right. These things do happen. They will happen, and like Chris said, they probably will happen again, regardless of what we do to stop it.
Which one next, Nikki?
how about why can't we do a rollback? I think that was one of the questions that we answered briefly in the announcement. It's probably one of the most. Technically, if you could
Why
explain
can't
it.
we? Yeah. Why can't we do a rollback? I mean, from a technical perspective, we take backups of the servers every day, and we could in theory have restored the servers from a backup. That would have been possible. But the thing is, that's not a rollback. It's certainly not a rollback of this issue for a couple of reasons. One is that a lot of people would have purchased Metacoin using in-app purchases, and that would have rolled back all records of them having purchased those Metacoin, but not refunded them because Oculus in-app purchases do not work that way. Two is that a lot happened in Infiniverse, as does happen every day over the course of that evening, not just over those 2 hours when the city opened. And we would have had to roll that back too, because the incident, nothing in Infiniverse is isolated. Everything is affecting everything else. People are buying in one place and selling in another place. So we couldn't have just rewound a portion of the world. We would have had to have rewound the whole world, and everything anybody did who was online, even if they had nothing to do with the incident or didn't even know it was happening, they would have woken up the next day and found out that for some reason everything they'd done had disappeared. So it's very much I'm not going to be dishonest. From a technical perspective, we could have restored the servers from backup and wiped out any progress that had happened to Multiverse across the course of that entire evening. But a lot of people would have been quite literally ripped off because Metacoin they purchased would have disappeared, and we would have had no way of giving them it back, simply out of our control. And a lot of people's progress who did absolutely nothing wrong, and even if you do think them being in purchasing in the Megastar City was wrong, there were a lot of people who didn't. They would have been wiped out as well. So it's just not the right solution to the problem. A rollback. It's a big, brutal, hammer-like attempt at fixing it that would have smashed other things.
And just to point the blame at somebody neatly and squarely, as the CEO, I take full responsibility of making sure that that didn't happen, because I was not in a position to be willing to accept that people who'd bought houses or properties elsewhere would have been ripped off and lost them and not known about the Metacoin purchases or a whole load of other things of that nature. So if you want to shout and scream, DM me. I'm all ears, and I will attempt to be as polite and courteous about responding to all of them as possible.
Then the next question is,
Shall I take that one?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so dropping a new city is one of those things that we talk about a lot. We're going to get into fluffy area here, and I'm going to talk about things that might be either confusing or outside of the area of not everybody's interest. But basically, dropping a city is a big decision. It's not something we just want to do lightly. Infiniverse is and can be very big. We could add lots and lots of cities and lots of space and lots of other things. And in the end, we hope that, Infiniverse, Multiverse will be unbelievably huge. But we have to be very careful about that. I think Antonio and I had a chat about this on on Discord or in Facebook or something. That there are consequences to it, and at the moment there is a good amount of property and land out there that still hasn't been eaten up, whether it's apartments inside buildings or whether it's storefronts or other things. Sure, there might not be that many penthouses left, but there's still a lot of land out there that we need to, open up. We're opening up new cities all the time, and those cities are, already existing. Adding a new one isn't something we take lightly. So yes, we could, in theory, add a new one, but that has other problems. And there are people out there who have invested and bought property who would feel that we were devaluing their property by adding new locations at a ridiculous rate. At the same time, we understand that the people that had their Christmas presents stolen want to have them replaced. So we are in the process of trying to work out how to solve that problem in a, I think, measured manner. As somebody was saying, we do need to add new areas. We do need to give new players the opportunity to have access to penthouses, and not just from player-to-player trades, but from ones that are available within the app. And we are going to be adding some new penthouses over the foreseeable future that people will be able to get access to with warning, and we're going to attempt to fix it. I don't want to define exactly what we're going to do because Chris, myself, and the team and Nikki are all still negotiating the exact details, but you'll hear about it very soon. Chris, do you want to explain a little bit more? And without going into the exact detail, but just the sort of things that we're going to be doing, and why adding a new city in the same way that we did for the Megastar City and for the Joke apartments is not something we can just do every day.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's partly that adding a new city, well, as Stan says, it's a big deal, and it would introduce, new penthouses for the people that missed out. It wouldn't really push Infiniverse forward in any way. We would just have the same Infiniverse, but with another new city. And I think what I've certainly wanted to do to remedy this situation is not to say, well, let's just add a new city and Infiniverse will be the same as it was, but with 2 extra cities instead of 1 extra city. But instead say, what features will we looking at bringing in soon? What procedural generation features have we been thinking to improve the world and Infiniverse and introduce new types of area? You know, new interesting things to buy, and bring those forward in our schedule instead. So, you know, as San says, we're still just negotiating exactly which of those things we'll bring forward and which ones we'll attack in the very near future. But the reason I very much want to go down that path is if we try and remedy the situation that way, then what we'll end up with is a better Infiniverse as a result of remedying it, instead of just an Infiniverse with an extra city. And that benefits everyone. It makes everything more valuable. I mean, it makes the economy more valuable. It makes the product better. A better product means more people. And it makes it a more interesting space to be, where you can say, have you been to this place? It's different to that place.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
I think that you've really nailed it. You know, the value, increasing the value is important. So if we are going to add a new city, adding a new city that doesn't have a purpose doesn't really increase the value. At least with Megastar, there was this purpose. You know, there was an area where, you know, I don't want to say exactly how many because that's the remit of joke, but there are many hundreds of properties that were placed in that city for a specific reason, and that was great. But doing that again without a reason would actually also devalue the other cities that people have spent a lot of time and money investing in a building.
Yep.
You know, it's not just Alliance, but there's the Wild West. There's I can't remember. There's Cyber City. There's a whole load of areas out there that people have put time and effort into. Art districts and cities there that don't have a skyscraper or a hub scraper that deserve it just as much as anybody else.
Mhm.
So those are all things that we've got to consider. You know, yes, the Christmas presents were stolen. Yes, we need to remedy it, but we can't take away from other people just because of that, because we cocked up. Otherwise, all we're doing is, you know, making some people feel better at the expense of other people, and that's not our job. Our job is to try and make as many people, because we know and we've seen we're not going to please everybody, but as many people happy as possible.
I think you're in one of these positions. Well, right now is yes, we have this is make good on a situation, and as we said in the previous AMA, there are a lot of things in development that won't announce until definitely going to happen, and this is one of those instances. Advantage of some of the things in a way that will make the future even better for a specifically to help out in instances like this. I think
yeah.
it's more exciting. I'm trying not to say anything about what's coming, but I think you'll be as interested as I am with what's coming for the future.
I think the thing that I've learned over many years in this industry is the robot's going to tell me off for swearing here, but when you fuck up, you can just try and shovel away the shit and come out the same place you were before you fucked up.
Yep.
Or you can say, how do we take this situation and when we finished shoveling away the shit, be in a better place than we were before it happened in the first place. And that's what we want to do. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're working on right now, and that's what's going to happen.
I'm looking forward to that. Someone asked a question with regards to the raffle. How is the selection process work now to the winner? I can answer that one. So obviously the raffle was selected at random within the area. However, obviously, change very quickly, expectedly. So we've changed it now. Anybody provided they're online, have been online any point 19th May, they are in. That also does include permanently with. I can't remember those two storefronts. I know they're pretty good. Stan selected them. I'll tell you, but I know that
Oh, they're good. Yeah.
they're good ones. They more importantly, storefront owners from the community. For example, Alison man has giving out says we're all mad here. We're all mad in the Infiniverse, and it's Alice on Wonder. Then you've got Birchwood Creek giving out 0.100 gram of Alaskan gold. In my wildest dreams, I would not be expecting someone to literally give us gold. I didn't see that one coming. Then you've got Beck and you've got Liz, who are. I think Beck is going to be giving out a penthouse. I don't think in our area. I think it's somewhere within the map. Have for a month in a city. Got so many people sponsor the raffle specifically have an opportunity to actually back and take part in, and I think it would only make sense, only be right. Everybody raffle now. Be online. Then we'll make a big long list of everybody who was on between the. We'll pick at random. We'll announce the win. Hoping Monday afternoon. How depends on how busy Chris is on Monday.
Let's not make things that depend on how busy I am.
Yeah, exactly.
that's not a good thing to do.
Exactly. That's
But on that note, I'd like to say thank you again to everybody that participated and continues to participate, repeatedly in all of these things that we're doing, because it really is a community effort and it's great to see. So thank you, everybody.
Overwhelmed by the even after we announced it. Forward and ask that, and there will be opportunity. But if you want to support people sponsor this event, go to the City Hub over the next few days, and you'll be able to see their storefront. The link, they're being put up on the Editor's Choice storefront. Please take the time. And I know some of them actually have specifically happening in their store. Question. A lot of questions last minute, but then there's also people just expressing, understanding, also asking questions about what happened. But I know there was one question that the joke apartments. There was a question about what percentage of the joke apartments were penthouses compared to apartments, because a lot of people didn't know the chances when they clicked on their redeem.
Oh, I have that number. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if
now
we're
is
able to.
Joke know that. We've told Joke that. They know that number, and I suspect they're happy to share that, but I don't think it's our thing to give away. It feels like that would be, giving away someone else's information, but they'll probably be perfectly happy to,
So maybe
to
go
say
poke
that
them,
if
and
asked.
you probably can find that information. Then there's this question randomly from Liz Gamer: when is tuning?
Ooh, we've done that one before. It's opening when we have content in it that makes it exciting and worth opening, rather than just an area that is, pretty and interesting to look at, but you can't do anything in. The point of Tooniverse and Toon City, those areas, is to have a gameplay experience in them, and at the moment there is no gameplay. They look good, they're fun to be in for a few minutes, but we want to make them more interesting. I think last week in the AMA,
Yep.
Or in the last AMA that we did, Chris mentioned that we, one of the fears is that we don't know where people will go when they're new to Multiverse and they show up. And if they end up going into an area like Toon City or the Tooniverse rooms, which are cute, but you can't do anything in them, that might be taken out of context and represent or reflect on the whole experience and make it feel empty and boring. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to let that happen. But I'm not actually that precious on it. And maybe with a conversation with Chris, we can negotiate whether there's a way of letting some people have access to the links that would take them there so that they can set up their own doors and open them up to themselves. It's not so much about keeping it hidden. It's about making sure that if we are going to release a curated verse, that those verses are worth experiencing.
Yeah. No, as people have asked me, but I would love to know a random noob. Love to know your response to it because I obviously know what we're working on, but I want to know what you're willing to tell people. And the question is, anything be done to make apartments nearly as desirable as penthouses, perhaps an executive or a presidential suite that adds an incentive other than buying an apartment that makes them desirable? Perhaps not on all floors. Maybe there could be pricing rent ground floor versus penthouse. What do you think? And
So I'm not going to answer that unless Chris lets me, because that will
Chris,
send me off on a stream of talking about the things that I would like to do versus the things that we technically can do or are achievable within a reasonable time frame. I'm going to hand it off to Chris, and if he says, "Sand, go for it," I'll go for it. But otherwise, Chris, you can answer in a more reasonable
I mean,
manner.
I could say that I could filter what you would say.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, that's great. Go on, Sam. Tell everyone all the things you would like to do, and then I'll qualify
Yeah.
them with
Okay,
ridiculous
so
amount.
so before we start, this is very much in the area of things that we are discussing, things that are on the R&D list, and things that we would very much like to do. So, no promises. I'm not guaranteeing any of this is going to happen or even is achievable within a reasonable amount of time, even if we had $100 million. There we go. That's the
That's what
preface, that's the caveat.
Sean
Nice.
said that on stage on No Man's Sky. It's still
And then
there.
it still went in.
good
Exactly.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, good disclaimer, but obviously going to be taken out of context later. But yeah, I'm feeling generous, so let's go for it.
Yeah.
One of the things that we would like to do is make buildings themselves attractive. And at the moment, there's no reason to, buy into a building apart from if you expect that area to go up in value. So let's say in Grand Central, the reason why the buildings are so tall in Grand Central is because, or in Central City, is because people understand that is the central city, that is the center of the hub, the center of Infiniverse. And whatever's going to happen, it's going to be big there, and it will be big there in a big way, and therefore the value of properties around that area will go up. And even if it's not your specific building, but it's next door or a couple of buildings next door, that's going to push your price up. So that has a real value that is understandable. But as soon as you start getting out into the newer cities, you're not seeing the growth levels that you're seeing in Central City. And that's clearly because, well, what's the value? Why would I buy into this building rather than just a building around the corner? And when you start getting further and further away from the hubs or further and further away from the drops or the views, that concept kicks in more and more. And it's quite cool because it does help make the world a little bit more like a real city or a real world where you have, fall off in height of buildings and it matches. But honestly, we all want to be in a situation where there is a real reason to buy an apartment in a building, not just because of the value growth, but because of utility. And that word is something that obviously the NFT crowd know very well, but it's valuable and relevant to everybody across the world. So imagine a scenario where if you buy in a specific building, you get specific functionality. You get access to stuff that nobody else has access to, or that only a restricted few have access to. And that building, whether it's controlled by us, or whether it's controlled by the storefront owner, or maybe the penthouse owner, or a group of people, or some other metaverse structure. But imagine being able to know that owning an apartment in this building will give you access to exclusive content. That, to me, is an extremely powerful way of giving value, not just to the apartments, but also giving value to the storefront owners in the sense that they could participate in creating a world where the utility that they want to bring to their group, community, members, whatever it is, can be passed on into the building and into the environment around them. And that's something that we're going to be working on. We're going to be doing it from, when I say working on, preface, working on designing, looking into how we would do and what we would do. That whether it's giving power to storefront owners or whether it's ourselves adding functionality, we want to make buildings across the whole of Infiniverse have utility, and we want to do that in a way that is exciting and valuable to everybody that currently owns a building and people that want to own or have access to functionality in the future. Chris, do you want to just describe some of the sort of concepts that we've got from a technical point of view? How that would work or what sort of gameplay things might be included? Not that these are things we will deliver, but things that might be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go into minor detail on one of the things we've discussed because it's interesting. So, I mean, one of the ideas we've had is, well, people have asked for it a lot. We've been considering how we could get jetpacks into the app.
He said it.
And
He
whether
said
we'd
it.
have,
He
yeah,
said the
Jetpacks!
words.
yeah, woo!
When somebody complained
And
today
we
about
might,
me flying, I
yeah,
was trying so hard, and now, Chris, you've given me free reign.
yeah, exactly. And we'd probably make them like a consumable resource or something like that. But we'd have some buildings where you could permanently refuel your jetpack at. And of course, then anyone who lives in that building has suddenly got a massive advantage, and that's a really desirable building. And every apartment in that building is incredibly desirable because you know that if you own somewhere there, you can always refill your jetpack. I don't know exactly how that feature would work, but it's a nice example of how you take a fun and interesting gameplay feature, and then when you tie it either to a building or an area of the world, it creates, I mean, that thing that people mention all the time, a form of scarcity. Because scarcity is not necessarily about things across about total number of apartments in the entire world. It's about how many apartments have a jetpack attached to them. And if those are scarce, then they have a higher value.
Can I just say as
And we
well?
thought of some other, a lot of other little features, but I think that's a nice example of one. Simpler ones might be
Yeah.
fireworks.
Jetpack idea, the first visual idea, but we're also open. We're also always looking for inspirations, like else. Was that in the same? Save us having think of stuff.
Yeah, well, not that done. I mean, we've got more ideas that we can manage to cope with, but jetpacks is a good example. It's not necessarily the biggest, and there are some other things that we've got ideas for. For example, Zombie Town game, access to content that is exclusive and only certain people, or dragons, dragons, as Beck shouts.
I want some
One
Whatever
idea,
it is.
yeah. What were we talking? Oh yeah, the other one I was talking about the other day was the ability to attach speakers to buildings, so buildings could have soundtracks. I think that would be
Yes.
it's another unique ability of certain buildings, and then all of a sudden, given apartments, you can have parties outside them.
A lot of people
although,
love partying in the definitely be a
yeah, and that's
Absolutely.
how, as a whole, this is the kind of way, whether it's specific gameplay features or just increasing the variation of the aesthetics in the world or things to do and places to go, the scarcity and value that we will create in Infiniverse will be done by making individual places unique and awarding special functionality or properties to certain areas so that everywhere has its own reason to exist, and everybody who wants that particular thing will want to buy in there, and that's where scarcity will come from in a growing world like Infiniverse, which will get bigger slowly, but that's how we'll keep the value of things even when it is growing. It's going to be exciting. I'm excited
exactly.
to see that
And,
happen.
I'm looking
and that's
spray
there's
paint
a
and I'm looking.
stuff. But I think it's important just to call out that we've mentioned something like jetpacks. I don't want people to latch onto jetpacks and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, you're not building functionality that's valuable to." I mean, Liz Gamer said she'd rather have something that helps her make money. 100% agreed, and that doesn't mean jetpacks is an idea of a thing. It's an easy one to define and describe, and probably easy for everybody to understand, and definitely for random noob or USA pilot. But the key thing is that's
That
not the
came out wrong.
only thing. But that's not the only thing that we'll be doing, and it's not the only thing that we would be looking to add. So please don't latch onto jetpacks and say, "Oh, you're just adding jetpacks because of blah blah blah." It's not. There are going to be things across the board, a range of different content, a range of different functionality, a range of different utility, and utility that you yourself would be able to add to the building, which would help drive interest in your storefront. So imagine you're a storefront owner, but you can add utility to your building, and therefore you can drive people and draw people to your storefront over others because it will attract a certain type of user. That is where we're going to go with these sorts of things, and that is something that we want to let the community participate in. And I think that that's really important to say and really important to nail down. And another one I want to talk about is the fact that we're talking about growing the size of it. And I think it's really important to understand that, yeah, we want to make utility and therefore value in whole buildings or in areas, districts, whatever it is, cities that has unique functionality and therefore value. But if we are going to be as successful as we intend to be and plan on being and are working towards being, we need to be able to have a world that can fit billions of people. The internet, with only, I don't know, what we're saying, like a million web pages in it isn't the internet. That's just not realistic. And we need to be able to have a world that lets everybody have an apartment, but not necessarily a good one, or not necessarily one that is what they would want, and finding ways of letting people trade apartments between themselves and letting them have access to going to an area that suits them and matches their style, their personality. I mean, we talked a little bit about avatars in the last AMA, and I'm not going to make a promise of anything, but imagine also if buildings had unique avatars. There was a utility in that, so that if you owned an apartment in a building, not only did it have a special style and visual style for the building, not only did the apartment in it have something unique or special or stylistic related to it, not only did it have utility that was in the form of fun gameplay, but also in the form of something that helped Liz Gamer make money, but also it had the ability to do things like avatars. Now, at that point, you're getting into an area where suddenly the value of these buildings will skyrocket and the value of being in a specific place will be reflected by all of that. That's where we as a company, as a team, want to go. And we want to bring you guys along for that journey, and we want you guys to participate in it, because again, it's not about us defining everything. We're not the, I mean, we want this to be something that involves all of you working with us in the way that you have been so far and continuing to do that. Superpowers, not jetpacks. Yes, sure, that too, but all of it. And we want to be able to let you define where this product goes, along with our capabilities and our tech, access. So keep that in mind when you look at these things. Keep that in mind when you think, well, why should I buy in a building underneath now that the penthouse is gone? Actually, there is value, and that value will be very clear in the not too distant future, and you'll be able to participate in that. Imagine a scenario where Rallo has, I don't know, he has a building with a storefront in it, but only people who bought in that building can have access to the events that Rallo does in the music district. Imagine that, or imagine that they get exclusivity events, or they get access to it first. I mean, that sort of thing is really powerful, and that's where we want to go. So yes, we're aware of it. Yes, we think about it regularly. And I'm sure I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the level of conversations and ideas that we've had or will have. I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm trying to keep it easy to understand and to discuss. But those are the areas that we're going down.
Question that came up. I know that you might want to answer. Tom Key asked that they're talking about penthouses and be good to know if I had to go developing storefronts.
Ah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Chris.
Hey.
If we have plans on expanding or developing the storefronts, how are we referring to?
I just
Well,
think they're
there's
like
two things
adding
that are
new
going to
things.
happen. So the first thing that we'll be doing is very, 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 very soon, we will be launching a new set of templates for storefronts. Now, they're not going to be different functionality, but they are going to be different visual style. So you will be able to have a completely different visual style for your storefront. Now, that again is not the end goal. That isn't the end destination, but that is the first of various steps that we will be going through towards making Infiniverse the place that we all want it to be. So new templates for everybody to be able to enjoy, everybody to be able to have access to, that is going to be coming out very soon. Aside from that, just like we talked about with regards to
Weiler's just
utility, there
asked
needs to be
what
more.
subscription levels they're for. We can.
Oh, go on, Chris. You can answer that because that was your call.
There'll be the new storefront templates will be available for all subscription levels. Yes. Done.
Apart
Yes.
from free.
Full
Nice.
stop. Everyone can get them.
He said the thing.
Yep. Well,
Let's
apart
go.
from free, because free can't get storefronts. But yeah, everyone who can have a storefront can have a can have the new templates.
I'm eager to see what people do with it, and I'm eager to see everyone witnessing wonderful hand. Question that I think came up the last AMA, and also now maybe we can answer it this time. Will we ever get a selfie up?
We will ever get a selfie option, yes. But I'm not sure when.
I think that's going to be one of those utilities, isn't it, Chris? Selfie stick utility.
Selfie stick. Wow.
Sorry. No. But yes,
Yeah, I
something
mean,
like self is cool.
well, yeah.
Another thing, mirrors, there's a whole load of things like that that are cool. Mirrors are something we've tried a little bit in the past, haven't we, Chris?
Yeah. They're easy to do and hard to do well, mirrors, which is why we've not got them in there yet. Selfie sticks similar, it's very easy to get something in that just takes a backwards photo, but getting something that renders the photo in front of you on a stick that it's going to take without murdering the hardware and things like that just take time. But they'll come. We'll achieve them. It's not difficult. It's nothing's impossible.
Oh yeah, let's have somebody else.
Excited, Mark.
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
Oh, hold on. Let me change my. I always hate that how it changes the audio output. 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So this is a little. So anyway, so I have a background in e-commerce, and as I'm going through, all the cities and the stores, and I'm thinking, has there ever been any thought to have Metacoin be like the currency for everything, like almost as a form of payment where you charge percentage for everyone to use Metacoin instead of fiat. I mean, everybody's walking around with a wallet already. So I just think maybe for simplicity, I don't know, I was just curious if that was ever talked about. Like that might be an option. Maybe for people that are just coming out with storefronts. Obviously, I know you can't convert Meta to fiat at this moment in time, but maybe that's something that might come to fruition down the road. I just think it's it would it's a revenue stream for the project. Doesn't have to be anything ridiculous. A lot of people that have these storefronts, they're already making. They have to pay fees to accept credit cards and such. So I just think it could be another avenue, and maybe something simpler for the entire project.
I think the
Thank you for that
trickiest
question.
one
It's a
with
good
that
one.
is that, well, I mean, brutally, Oculus take a big chunk of
Right.
a MetaCoin payment into the app. So it's true that let's say, I think PayPal take 5%. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Something like
Oculus take a lot more than 5%.
No.
So
a lot more.
it's, yeah, and also we don't, our economy, because our economy hasn't yet been tied to fiat,
Right.
it doesn't have the same stability as fiat, and I'm not sure at this stage whether it would be desirable for people to get paid in something that fluctuates in the way Metacoin fluctuates. Yet, maybe in the future, maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I'm more keen. My vision in the not too distant future for storefronts is to get the ability in for people to host web pages running inside VR that can run JavaScript and potentially control the environment with JavaScript as well. So, at that point, you've got the facility for people to do all sorts of things. If somebody can interact with a web browser inside your storefront, it doesn't take that many steps to think where you could go from there. That's and I think that's
Yeah,
possibly the first way people will end up directly making financial trades for their own products in multiverse. I don't know. What about you, Sam? That's my
well,
perspective.
I think, I mean, first of all, I think it's a good question, Mark. Thanks for asking it. I think the complexities of it are a little bit scary because somebody else was just asking in the AMA chat what's going to happen with Steam coming onto PC or other platforms. And what happens if we go onto another platform where the cut is different? So let's say everybody's okay with giving a 30% cut of any transaction of that nature for Metacoin into the app to Oculus. But what happens when you're on a platform that doesn't have a 30% cut? Does that mean that we go to there and let you buy them there? Preferably, people on Quest get penalized. Or do we have to set up a shop to sell Metacoin on our website that is then the way in? I mean, there's so many negative problems with the Metacoin issue based upon the platform stuff that we're not entirely in control of, whereas there is an established solution, which is credit cards and PayPal and the equivalent, that already works where the cuts are significantly less, where people are already, functioning with businesses and accepting those cuts and established to take those cuts, and it's not painful. I think that that's the biggest issue that we've got in the short term, which is saying, well, let's make them have value. And apart from that, we're not allowed to. The Meta platform simply just doesn't let us. However, let's assume that one gets changed because Mark has his own plans for the metaverse, and he's going to have to tackle these problems at some point himself and accept that their current solutions don't work. But assuming, none of that happens, we still have some of these other problems that we need to face. We need to find a solution that is not as big a penalty as the Metacoin is.
That answer your
We've
question?
got 2 minutes before Chris has to jump off.
Yep.
I'm able to stick around because my meeting's been postponed from what I can see.
Yeah.
I can
So
hold on
chat
for
a
an
little bit
extra
more.
10 minutes, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Got an extra 10.
I think we have another person waiting.
Let's bring them in.
Okay, Tech, I'm sending you an.
Thank you for taking the question. I just have a question about drops, how you guys come up with them and stuff, because I'm just curious. I know you guys are trying to represent the city or the district and all that stuff, draw in more people and make the property more valuable and stuff. But I think sometimes we miss the whole thing on the value of the drop. Like, I have nothing in Mega City, so I have the new city. But I was thinking, instead of having a old style court jester, which represents comedy, having something more functional, like, say, screens on all four corners facing all the buildings for the people who have the center. And those screens would show like old movies, comedy stuff from the joke club that are from people coming up and stuff. Put speakers in all the balconies where they could hit the speaker and listen to it or not. And then they can invite people to come in and look and stuff and make it more functional. You guys have screens everywhere, but there's never anything on it, no advertisement for stores or anything. And I was just wondering if something like that can be done to make it more valuable instead of a 90-foot court gesture that, I'm sorry, in my opinion, is not that great.
I'll tell Roman directly that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I do. I think I like the jester more than you do, but
Yeah.
I completely see where you're coming from. We are not technically ready to do things of that level of functionality, but it is absolutely something we want to do. I mean, you've highlighted that we do have screens everywhere. What you see there is the beginning of that tech, the start of writing it. But it's not finished and ready enough to do some of the things you describe. For an example of that is everybody will probably notice that there's only ever one video playing in Infiniverse. That's not a coincidence. It's because we haven't yet written the code to automatically detect which two videos you're closest to and only play them in order to avoid using all of your bandwidth. So there's just these extra technical steps that we have to take before we get to these more powerful environmental features. But you're absolutely right. I mean, that completely plays back right to what we were talking about, scarcity and giving buildings real value. Like that's exactly the sort of thing we're talking about, is having an apartment outside that's facing the big screen is huge. And then every apartment in that building, doesn't matter if it's a penthouse or not, shoots up in value because it's outside the big screen. So yeah, whether you like the gesture or not, the sort of thing you're describing, is where we're going. We're just not there yet, is the simple answer.
I'd like to quickly throw something out there. What you've talked about doing is something we are going to do. We do want to do, and we have passion for having access to content in Infiniverse, whether it's on a balcony, on a penthouse or apartment, or whether it's in a stadium that we place somewhere, or multiple different stadiums, and letting people display content there. At the moment, we're doing all of these events that you're seeing on the Oculus Store, and they're happening in places like the Metaverse. Why they're not outdoor places in Infiniverse is primarily technical. It's not because we don't want to do that. So you can expect that over the future, and you can expect us to go down that route, and you can expect that to be something that you are all welcome to participate in, showcasing content on when we get there. So don't get dissuaded. Another thing is the drops and the value of the drops. There are a couple of different things there that we need to acknowledge. One, drops of the statue nature that a lot of people are saying they're bored of. Well, they have value to the app. They have huge value to storefront owners. They have huge value to people who just are walking around and can't remember where they are, what is unique and what isn't, where they exist in an area. And they allow people to choose a topic that is relevant to them. For example, the educational district now has a statue related to education. That has value to those storefronts and those people and the people in buildings around there. So while I agree that they are in many senses boring, I don't think that they're the wrong thing to do, and I think they are valuable to the Infiniverse world. And they're a lot easier to add than some of the code that needs to be written. And therefore, they don't exclude one.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing to reiterate, isn't it? That I think you
Yes.
mentioned last time, is that there's an easy misconception that if we weren't building statues, we could be writing more code. And that's not. It's just not the way it works. The nice thing about the statues is that we can continue to add statues whilst we write code, and we can continue to improve the look of the world in simple ways by simply producing more artistic content whilst we're doing the more technically complex jobs of getting the ability to stream multiple videos into Infiniverse, or generating more varied environments in the countryside, or getting in the water, for example, was a bigger technical challenge than getting in a new statue. So yeah, I mean, that's just one of the things to highlight. Is putting the statues in is not something that is instead of writing this code. It's something that will happen regardless of whether we were writing that code.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Tech. We need to turn you back to the audience so that I can answer some questions. We've only got a limited amount of time left with these. So the next question that I just saw it a minute ago, and now my mind's gone blank. I can't see it. Are we going to get any more choice on apartment templates? Will there be a choice in?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Apartment templates, and I mean, obviously, really, down the line, apartment customization, like that's just a matter of time. I think you'd be crazy to look at what we're building and not assume that at some point in the future you'll be able to change elements of your apartment in addition to your whole apartment. But I think changing full apartment templates will come first, because it's a technically simpler thing to achieve.
That'll be exciting to have some uniqueness or a little bit of a surprise when you load into an apartment and know which template goes in.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things there that I think we need to call out. I don't know whether everybody's watched the video that Nikki posted of the apartments, but there is some little Easter egg at the end. I would highly recommend that you go down that route of watching that video and watching it all the way to the end, because it does hint at some stuff that's coming in the future, stuff that we're not guaranteeing, but we are doing R&D work on to try and deliver, that will make not just penthouses, but apartments more valuable in different areas, different placements. So have a look at that. Think about that in the context of different styles of apartments, and then also finally customization of apartments. And when you get to that level of complexity, you can suddenly see how cool it will be when we get there.
I think in addition to that question was, will apartments have anything? I think someone mentioned it was, will normal apartments have the same props as joke apartments?
Oh, yes. Props are awesome. We threw them in for joke at the last minute, thanks to Ollie. Ollie can take full credit for that.
Yeah.
They are awesome little props. They're cool to have, and they are, again, just the beginning of of what will be coming to apartments.
Yeah, I guess they might not necessarily be the same ones, although we decided that. But if shit to play with, if that's what you're asking, then yes.
I think people love throwing around the cannonballs and petting the sharks and playing with a pigeon, the burgers. So, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we were just discussing how to drop that onto Wendy's, Mrs. Cummings' shoulders earlier today.
She doesn't know this.
So,
that's nice.
We
of you.
pretty much. Yeah.
She knows.
We've already agreed to make it her problem. So,
But you were in the meeting too, Nick.
Yeah, but when she was talking about animating individual M&Ms, I thought she was passing that on to Chris. I didn't know that was something she was considering for herself. That's cool.
Each individual M&M, that's got to be you, Nikki. That's not what.
Well, so long as everyone's prepared to wait at least 5 years for me to learn code, then.
All I remember is Nikki saying, "Hey, let's add props and get Wendy to do the wall."
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely it. Yeah.
Definitely. Becca says, when is Beccaville coming?
Yeah.
I think Beccaville already exists, doesn't it?
I think that's Infiniverse, isn't it?
Finley spread across the Infiniverse, yeah.
Yeah, I keep trying to call it Infiniverse, but...
Beccaverse.
Yeah.
So on the subject, we've got to go. I've got a minute left before I've got to be out. Chris too. When is Mrs. Cummings getting a vacation? She's getting one soon, so don't worry.
She just went on one.
I know, but she's getting another one.
She
So
just went to.
she's had more
Spain.
holidays than the rest of us.
Yeah.
It's good. She's got
but,
M&Ms to animate, so I don't know why you're complaining. She needs time to prep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No, thank you guys for today. It's been really good. We'll do some more of these in the future. I appreciate that we did not get to a lot of people's questions. I saw the AMA chat filling up with stuff and couldn't answer them. I'll try and answer anything that I can afterwards, and we'll do some more for anybody who didn't get a chance to speak in the future. All the best, and see you guys around.
And for those who
see
didn't
you
get
later.
to the beginning, this will be available. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye guys.